Will anyone fall out of this tier? Which top running back just misses out of being ranked a running back 1? And where is everyone currently being drafted? What is going on, guys? It's Wade here with Tugs Cat Gaming Sports, and we are back with our Crunch Time Sports podcast. Now, today we are going to be looking at the running back ranking, starting with number 24 and going all the way to 13. So these will all be tier 2 running backs, running back 2s, as they are known in fantasy football. And then, of course, next week we will get to the running back 1s, of course, which will be 12 through 1 for my rankings. But before we kick it off today, there are a couple news and notes that I need to go over. And one being basketball is back. The NBA is back actually today as I'm recording this Thursday after work. So basketball is back. The Jazz and Pelicans should be going on right now, I believe, with the Lakers and Clippers following up that game. And then hometown team, Houston Rockets, they do start tomorrow, Friday, that is. They will be playing the Dallas Mavericks, and these games are on the bubble. No one has tested positive for corona for the past, it's been a while, but I think maybe 2 weeks or so, as everyone has been negative. Now, people are leaving the bubble-ish for family emergencies, like one Lou Williams, who did leave for a family emergency, and then was caught on Instagram or Twitter at a gentleman's club. Yeah, he tried to delete it and said that that was months ago. That was a long time ago. No, because everyone was wearing masks. So yeah, he's been I think quarantining for, he has to quarantine for about 2 weeks, I believe. So Lou Will, man, you can't keep it in your pants for a month. I mean, really, at a gentleman's club. Now, he claims he was there just visiting a friend, but there's so many other places you can go besides that. But, whatever. So, other than that, there hasn't been really any other drama. There shouldn't be, technically, any positives if people would just stop leaving. If everyone just stays there, stops leaving with all these family emergencies, there shouldn't be a single problem. Also, they will be playing 8 regular season games, seeding games as they're calling them, before they get to the playoffs. So, of course, I'll update y'all throughout that. And then there is one more thing I want to talk to you about before we get into today's video, and that is some pretty big news regarding fantasy football. And I actually had to move around some of my rankings because of this. So, Darrell Williams, running back for the Kansas City Chiefs, and who helped them win the Super Bowl just a couple months ago, decided to opt out of the season. Now, we have had other NFL players opt out, but this one is a really head-scratching move, as he pretty much, this is probably his last year with the Chiefs because of who they draft at the running back position, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So it is really, really weird that Darrell Williams opted out, because that pretty much means there goes his starting running back job. Now, he probably was going to lose it maybe, I projected by week 4 he wouldn't be the starter anymore, of course. But, if an injury happens to Clyde, then Darrell Williams is the next guy up, or still that same guy. So for him to opt out in what is a huge position battle is really weird. Now, maybe he has some family problems. Maybe he has problems, sickness or whatever, but this one was definitely head scratching, because of all the other ones, they kind of make sense. Asthma related, just had a newborn baby. But for Darrell Williams to opt out, and I don't think we will see him actually back in the NFL anyways, because the Chiefs signed him off the streets a couple years back to take over that running back spot. So this is a very weird move, but you know what? I don't blame him. So if you think it's better, then it is. All right, so we will kick it off today with number 24. That is going to be Mark Ingram, Baltimore Ravens running back. He is entering his second year with the Ravens. He's part of a loaded backfield, obviously. And can the old man get it done again? So Mark Ingram, he's been in the league since 2011, and unlike most running backs, the tail end of his career has been extremely successful. Way more successful than the first part. He's rushed for over 1,000 yards 3 of the past 4 years and has hit double-digit touchdowns twice. Last year, his first year with the Ravens, after signing a 3-year, $15 million contract, he ran for 1,018 yards, 10 touchdowns, and through the year had 26 for 247 and 5 touchdowns. He scored a touchdown every 15 touches, so don't expect him to replicate that, obviously. But if Lamar can build upon his MVP season, Ingram can have a very solid year once again. The only thing standing in his way are injuries, as he has dealt with them throughout his seasons, as he's only played in 16 games 4 times, and he's been in the league since 2011, so that is about half the time. Also, the Ravens spent a second-round pick on star Ohio State running back J.K. Dobbins, who could eat into his workload. I expect that more, though, next year. Marcus currently going at 406, so round 4, pick 6. Whenever I give these rounds that they are going in, I'm doing it in a 12-team PPR mock draft. So in a 12-team PPR mock draft, he's going at 406. And this isn't too bad. I could definitely see him falling later into the back half of round 5, maybe even round 6, hopefully in some of your drafts. If you can get him around 5 or round 6, I would definitely scoop up him, as he could be a candidate you look to trade for. Maybe the first 4 weeks he gets around 15 points a game. Go ahead and trade him off. Maybe you can get a better running back, maybe a guy who has been struggling and then should have a better chance to bounce back. As J.K. Dobbins might cut into his workload just a bit towards the end of the year. And of course, Lamar Jackson, he's going to be rushing all the time too. So that will be Mark Ingram, and we'll move on to player number 23. And that is going to be David Montgomery, running back for the Chicago Bears. So he did decent his rookie year, which was last year with the Bears. He only scored twice after week 9, and that was a rushing touchdown and a receiving touchdown. But the Bears did bring in no competition for him, so the only other running back there is Tariq Cohen. So Montgomery didn't get full commitment from the Bears until week 8, but even then he still didn't produce consistent for fantasy or even the Bears. Like I said, Tariq Cohen is still there, but he didn't factor into the run game at all, and even though he had a down year himself. For the season, David had a line of 242 rushes for 889 yards and 6 touchdowns. Through the year, he had 25 catches for 185 yards and another touchdown. So there are a few reasons for optimism entering the season, and the first one is that they brought Nick Foles in to compete with Mitch Trubisky at quarterback. Yeah, Foles hasn't been successful anywhere else, but he has to be better than Mitch, right? Another is that David had 242 carries last year, and he could easily get even more touches this year as well. Getting a running back in the later rounds, as he is going at 407, we can get around 250 touchdowns. Give me 250 touchdowns. If he can get 250 touches in a season, is a staple in keeping your team afloat, especially if you miss out on a big-time running back. If he does get 250 touches, he should probably rush for over 1,000 yards. I gotta think Nick Foles beats out Mitch Trubisky, and Nick Foles at least gives the Bears just a little bit more consistency at that running back position. I'm not really targeting Montgomery, as I think it's just a little bit too risky, and the Bears are just incompetent right now. So I am gonna try to avoid that backfield, but of course, if it's round 6 and he's still there and I need a running back, you might as well take a flyer on him no matter what. Moving on to number 22, that is going to be Leonard Fournette, Jacksonville Jaguars. He had his best season since entering the league in 2017 because he finally stayed healthy. He had his 5th-year option decline, so he will be a free agent after this season. And the Jags brought in new offensive coordinator Jay Gruden and then pass catching specialist Chris Thompson, which is kind of a big blow to the hopefulness of Leonard Fournette building upon that success he had last year. So Fournette actually had a terrific season for fantasy and regular season purposes. He played 15 games and put together 1,100 yards, but just 3 rushing touchdowns. Through the air, he did great too, seeing 100 targets and catching 76 for 522 yards. Durability and inconsistency were holding him back, and he finally produced, but he had a terrible offseason. Like I said, the team brought in Jay Gruden and Chris Thompson as they did play together in D.C., so Fournette will definitely not see 100 targets in the passing game again. This is what defines Chris Thompson. That's all he pretty much does, just eats up targets through the air. So that is going to be a big blow to Fournette's game, and that's why I have him at 22 instead of 17 or 16, is because that is really what propelled Fournette to have such a great year. 76 catches, I mean, that is amazing. He'll probably go down to about, I'd say 35 to 45 catches, which is still good, but that's not running back one elite production right there. There were also rumors of the Jags trying to shop him during the NFL draft, but couldn't even fetch a 7th rounder. I don't know how much I believe this, because if I was leading the Texans, I would definitely give up a 7th round pick to bring in Fournette and have him work together with David Johnson. I mean, that seems too good to be true. We can move David Johnson to the PPR role, like a Chris Thompson role, and then have Leonard Fournette come in and pound the tackles, be that goal line tough running back. Because he is a strong running back. He just hasn't had any consistency. The Jaguars have been a bad offense. Regardless, though, the Jags have changed their offense now with Gardner Minshew and 2 elite wide receivers. Well, not elite yet, but 2 very good wide receivers out wide. So this offense isn't too bad, and maybe he might be more motivated this year to try and get a big contract for next season. He's going in the middle of round 3 currently, and that might be just a little rich for my blood. But if you can get him in the middle of 4th or 5th round, I definitely take a chance on him. And he's definitely someone I'm keeping my eyes on. I am hoping he falls rather than rises in drafts, because there is quite a bit of upside with him, but we will see throughout the season. Moving on to player number 21, that is going to be Melvin Gordon, as he is now on the Denver Broncos. So he sat out the first 4 games of the season in hopes of getting a new contract. The Chargers let him walk, and he signed a 2-year, $16 million deal with $13 million guaranteed. Will he be the lead back in a talented 3-headed backfield, though? That is a question mark for me. It sounds like he will, but I don't trust it. Melvin Gordon, he's had quite an interesting career with the Chargers after not scoring a single touchdown his rookie year. Yes, that's right. He did not score a rushing or a receiving touchdown his rookie year. He went on and scored 47 total touchdowns his final 4 years with the team. However, wanting to lock up a new deal, the Chargers were unwilling to budge, so Melvin held out for a bit and then ended up having his worst statistical season since his rookie year. He put up 612 rushing yards, 8 touchdowns, and through the year he had 42 catches for 296 yards and 1 touchdown. So the touchdowns were still there, obviously, but he averaged only 3.8 yards per carry, which is lower than you'd like for someone trying to get a new deal. If Melvin had averaged 4.4 yards per carry, 4.5, which is more elite, which is what he wanted to be paid as, that would have done wonders for him. But fortunately, he did not. However, though, the Broncos had no problem and decided to bring him in to share the backfield with Phillip Lindsay and Royce Freeman. I was a little shocked by this decision, actually, as I thought the Broncos' backfield was fine. But this does allow Phillip to play his more natural pass-catching role and Royce to get those tough 2 to 3 yards, and leaves Melvin as the lead back in what should be a more complete offense than last year. The Broncos are going to need Drew Lock to take a step forward and truly give Melvin a chance to be the guy in Denver. I'm a little bit lower on Melvin Gordon than I think most people are, as he does need more things to click his way than others do. But he is going at the back half of the third round, so that isn't terrible value for a guy who has decent upside, especially if one of his backfield mates gets injured. Moving on to number 20, that is going to be Devin Singletary, running back for the Buffalo Bills. He had a successful rookie season. Hopefully, the Bills will commit more to him being the guy this year, but they did spend a third-round pick on running back Zach Moss out of Utah State. So, just like I was with Josh Allen last year, I was really excited for Singletary as well, and actually drafted him in my home league. And he produced right out of the gate in his first 2 games. And then he missed the next three weeks with an injury, and then week 6 was their bye. So that was definitely a little annoying because he did really good. I could not wait to use him, and I felt like a champ, finding Devin Singletary and sticking with him. However, though, he was healthy from week 7, and he finished the year with 151 rushes for 775 yards and 2 touchdowns. Through the air, he had 29 catches for 194 yards and another 2 touchdowns. So for Singletary to really make that leap forward, he obviously will need to score more, at least on the ground, as through the air is too unpredictable. He's only 5'7", though, and lost a lot of goal line work to Frank Gore. However, though, he isn't there anymore, and he also lost a lot of goal line work to Josh Allen too, as obviously Josh Allen led the quarterbacks in rushing with, what was it again, like 9 or 10 rushing touchdowns? I can't even remember. It was something crazy. He also will need to have more work through the air, as he only had 41 targets, but checking down to running backs just isn't in Josh Allen's game yet, but perhaps this year and in the following seasons that will change. The Bills did spend an early round pick on Zach Moss, who was a more talented running back prospect out of this year's draft and built more like a running back, but he will have to earn those opportunities to take away from Devin. I think there is too much upside in Devin's game to limit him much, and I absolutely love his current ADP of 410. If he can stay around that spot, I will have him on nearly all of my teams heading into the season. I mean, for a guy like Devin Singletary to be going at the very end of round 4, the beginning of round 5, is kind of crazy. So you definitely should absolutely jump all over Devin Singletary, because Josh Allen did a good job. He's now got Stephon Diggs, an elite, a top end wide receiver. So all you need is Devin to get, 1,000 yards, and maybe he'll get 6 touchdowns on the ground, and through the air, if he can get 45 catches, that would be ecstatic. So definitely be on the lookout for Devin Singletary this year. Moving on to player number 19, that will be Chris Carson, running back for the Seattle Seahawks. Chris is entering his final year on his current contract. The Seahawks signed Carlos Hyde to be the backup, and he has put up 2 great back-to-back seasons as a 7th round running back. So Carson has done a terrific job since entering the league as a 7th round pick. He's had competition thrown against him since he's been in the league, as he's had Rashad Penny, CJ Prosise, JD McKissick, and Chris has beat them all out and stuck around. He now has had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, and he should once again rush for around 1,200 yards and improve upon his 37 catches from the previous year. If he could reach double-digit touchdowns, he could easily find himself finishing as a top 12 running back, and this is really the first guy of the first few that we have done that I can actually see becoming a top 12 running back or becoming a running back 1. Especially if he can get those double-digit touchdowns, like I said. He has, a great offense with Russell Wilson, of course. So they will always be competitive. So this is definitely someone to keep an eye on. Chris is saying that he is fully healthy from his fractured hip he suffered at the end of the season last year. And with Rashad Penny still recovering from his injury, which I believe was an ACL injury, he will most likely be placed on the PUP or the physically unable to perform list. So Carlos Hyde is the only detriment to another solid season. He's unlikely to eat into his workload. I am for sure targeting Carson as well, especially with an ADP at 3.9. So, if things were to go the route of a running back zero draft, which means you don't take a running back into the later rounds, or at least with your first few picks, Chris Carson, Devin Singletary, Mark Ingram, these guys are all who you're going to want to be targeting, especially Chris Carson if you do a running back zero strategy. Because, like I said, he's the first guy who really has that upside of being a running back one that we are getting to. Now it's low, maybe like a 10%, 15, 20% chance, but that is better than, zero, of course. So let's move on to number 18, and that is going to be James Conner, running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's missed 9 games since becoming the guy in 2018. You can throw out last year for the Steelers as everyone struggled with Ben Roethlisberger out. And will the Steelers re-sign Conner or let him walk? That is definitely the question throughout the season and the offseason. What are the Steelers going to do with James Conner? As he is entering his final year with the Steelers, and there are question marks everywhere. Can he stay healthy? Will Ben bounce back? Will the Steelers re-sign Conner? Are they going to limit his touches? Regardless, in his 2018 campaign, that everyone was healthy, of course, he did. Oh, and that was also that was the year LeVeon Bell held out, by the way, too. So James Conner took over for LeVeon Bell. He did a good job, even with missing 3 games. He had 215 touches, 973 yards, and 12 touchdowns on the ground. And through the air, he had 55 catches for 497 yards and another touchdown. He showed that he has the potential not only to be a starter, but even be a running back one in the NFL. I am not completely ignoring what he did last year, but no one on that offense produced. Juju Smith, meh. The tight ends, meh. Any running back, meh. I mean, the Steelers' quarterbacks were just not stepping up. They had Mason Rudolph, who knows what happened with Mason Rudolph. I mean, he had a helmet flung at his head by Myles Garrett. And then they had Doug Hodges. And somehow the Steelers went 8-8. So, I mean, you got to think that with Ben back, this offense should bounce back. And James Conner should bounce back as well. Now, that's a lot of shoulds, but sometimes that's what you have to rely on. Regardless, 2020 is here, and it's a new year, and James will once again be the lead back for a good offense, and you can't ignore that. Especially since he's reliable catching the ball as well. This ranking shows that I believe in the team more than him, as I think he will get a lot of opportunities to show he can be counted on. Mike Tomlin likes feeding it to just one guy, and I really don't see that changing. With an ADP of 3-4, you can get one of those top running backs, Zeke, McCaffrey, Barkley, and take a little more risk in drafting Conner, which is exactly what I would do if I had a top pick. Moving on to player number 17, that is going to be Todd Gurley, Atlanta Falcons running back. He was cut from the Rams to save cap room. He signed just a 1-year, $5 million contract, and he is a clear-cut starting running back for the Falcons. It will definitely be weird seeing Gurley in Falcons colors this year, but he jumps from one good offense to another, and this offense is even better in my opinion. Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, and now Todd Gurley, defenses will have to pick and choose what they're willing to give in, and if Gurley's knee holds up, he may find himself back as running back one. He definitely had a down year as he turned in 223 rushes for 857 yards and 12 touchdowns on the ground, and he had 31 catches for 207 yards and 2 yards receiving. He had and 2 touchdowns receiving. He had around 500 or less rushing yards and had his receiving totals cut in half from the previous year, but he can easily get back to those 2017 and 2018 totals, but I'm factoring just a bit of cautiousness as this can easily be a crapshoot quick. Regardless, I'm willing to take a chance on him, and he finally isn't going to cost you an early pick as he is going at 212, and with no preseason games this year, this could actually keep his ADP from rising and protects his knees. I would like to point out that he has been outspoken regarding player safety during the corona outbreak, so he will be someone to monitor with this as well as we get closer to the regular season. But if Todd Gurley does decide to play, I might just take a chance on him for a couple of my teams and, in mock drafts for sure, just to see what the team will look like. Another guy who you might want to take a chance on is going to be David Johnson, player 16, running back for the now Houston Texans. So he was part of that trade that sent Hopkins to Arizona. He gets to prove he can be relied on again to be a starting running back in the NFL. And Duke Johnson is really the only competition he will face. So David finds himself in a similar situation in Houston, just like Todd Gurley. Old team wanted to get rid of him and goes to a new team that will rely on him to once again be the one. The main difference, Atlanta got Todd cheap and the Texans paid a ton. I do have an in-depth video of David, so I will again provide a link at the top of the screen. I really do, though, like David's opportunity to produce with the Texans, as the offensive line is better than the one in Arizona. With Hopkins gone, there goes around 150 targets. Duke Johnson is still with the team, but he won't eat into the workload that much, at least on the ground. The Texans should absolutely squeeze everything left out of David Johnson, and with his current ADP at 306, you aren't having to risk it as much. And of course, this might be the bias in me because I am a Texans fan, of course, and I do like David Johnson. I do have him obviously just ranked one spot ahead of Todd Gurley. I do like where he's going in the draft better than Todd Gurley, so I'd rather take a chance on David Johnson than Todd Gurley. But with all that said, as a Texas fan, I am excited to see him play and hope that he can prove the doubters wrong one more time. Moving on to player 15, that will be Nick Chubb, Cleveland Browns. He had another terrific season building upon the success he had as a rookie. He almost won the rushing title last year, but Kareem Hunt is now on the team for the full year, and there is a new coaching regime. So these next players that we are going to go over, these were tough guys to rank because I wanted to put them at running back 1 and go in that running back 1 tier, but then the guys who I had in the running back 1 tier, I wanted to keep in the running back 1 tier. So these guys are, it's kind of a toss-up of who you really like more. So I do just want to point that out. But let's go ahead and dig over on the Chubbster. So Nick Chubb once again gave the Browns something to be happy of, even though it was another disappointing season for the team. He had a wonderful rookie season and did even better his sophomore year. So last year he piled up 298 carries for 1,494 yards and 8 touchdowns on the ground. Through the air he had 36 catches for 278 yards. The Browns improved their offensive line. Baker Mayfield said he is committed to improving and focusing more on being a quarterback. Odell Beckham is wanting to prove doubters wrong once again. So there is a lot of hope for another successful season for Nick Chubb. So why I have him at 15 instead of somewhere in the running back 1 tiers, that is 2 big reasons. One is that Kareem Hunt will now have a full season with the team, as when he came back from suspension last year, Chubb lost about 4 opportunities per game. Now sure, that isn't much, but what if that 4 this year turns into 6, and then turns into 10, and then turns into 15? So no matter how you feel about Kareem Hunt and what he did off the field, he is still a talented football player and can't be ignored, as teams are still going to want to use him. The other reason for concern is there's a new coaching regime, as Freddie Kitchens got the boot after just 1 year, and no one really knows how the running back committee will shake out. Chubb's ADP is right at the turns around 1 and 2, so you'll need to decide if you trust the breakout or not. I really do like Nick Chubb, but I don't know if he will get to almost 1,500 yards getting on the ground. If he gets to 1,100 yards and 6 touchdowns, who knows? He probably won't be a running back 1. But Nick Chubb is definitely someone who I am keeping a big eye on for sure. Moving on to player number 14, that is going to be Miles Sanders, Philadelphia Eagles running back. He had a fantastic rookie season last year. The final 8 weeks of the season, Sanders played 72% of snaps and averaged 18 touches per game. Now with Darren Sproles retired, Corey Clement as a free agent, that leaves Boston Scott as the only competition for Miles Sanders. Similar to Nick Chubb, Sanders could be in a line for a huge breakout sophomore year. His rookie season went great as he produced a stat line of 179 touches, 818 yards, and 3 rushing touchdowns. He had 50 catches and 509 yards and 3 touchdowns through the air. He will no doubt cross the 1,000-yard mark on the ground, and I wouldn't be surprised if he is able to get to 1,300 or 1,400 yards, as the Eagles have no other running backs that can compete with him. Carson Wentz staying healthy is really going to determine just how successful he will be, and sure, you can say that with every team, but Wentz will definitely need a clean bill of health from him and his wide receivers to really give Sanders the success he needs. I can easily see him finishing as a running back 1, but I am leaving just a bit of room just in case defenses do stack the box and force the Eagles wide receivers to beat them. Sanders' ADP is the same as Chubb's, going at 201, and I do give that slight lean to Sanders. So this will definitely be really interesting to see how it checks out. Sanders looks to be good in the passing game, as Carson Wentz obviously trusted him last year as he got over 50 catches. But for him to really move into that running back 1 tier, the touchdowns are going to need to go up for sure. All right, so moving on to our final player, and this guy is a big name running back who got just edged out. That is going to be LeVeon Bell. Oh, this is weird. Running back 13 in my rankings on the New York Jets. Bell signed a massive 4-year, $52.5 million contract at the beginning of 2019. He had the worst statistical season following that signing, and there's a weird relationship with Adam Gase and Bell and a good amount of other players. And moving on to him in an in-depth scenario, Bell held out the entire 2018 season, ended up getting paid handsomely for it, and then crapped the bed. Although there were a few factors, one being Sam Darnold missed a good chunk of the season with mono, the Jets had a terrible offensive line, and Adam Gase is the second worst head coach in the NFL right now. He also hasn't been shy about wanting to get rid of Bell pretty much as soon as they signed him. It's super weird, like I said. Anyways, though, Bell finished with 245 rushes, 789 rushing yards, and then 3 touchdowns on the ground. Through the air, he had 66 catches for 461 yards and 1 touchdown. So he plotted his way to 3.2 yards per carry, but of course was great in the receiving game. The Jets beefed up their O-line, and even Bell has said he's excited to run behind this new O-line and has been training his booty off to be ready for the season. The Jets brought in 37-year-old Frank Gore and drafted LaMichael Pirine, but there's absolutely no way they eat into his workload, right? Regardless, Bell has a terrific opportunity to bounce back, and he's going at 309 right now, which I absolutely love. It's been quite a while since I've had Le'Veon Bell on my team, of course, and for him to be going at 309 just seems ridiculous. I'm really hoping he doesn't jump up into the second round, because 309, I'm absolutely falling in love with this. And this is really the main reason I also pushed him up all the way to 13, because he's going too late not to produce enough. I think he will absolutely shatter that value and will go back to maybe 80 to 85% of his peak in Pittsburgh, which means running back 1 status for sure. So yeah, I absolutely love Le'Veon Bell's price. I'm even willing to reach with him in the 3rd round. So if I'm at, the turn of round 3, I might reach on him. It all just depends how my draft plays out. And I do want to point out, we will be doing mock drafts eventually, but I just want to go through all my rankings first. Alright, so that will be it for today's episode, ladies and gentlemen. So make sure you share, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, as this will definitely help get more fantasy football content out there for sure, as we do get more popular into the season, as I do plan on having more football sports episodes in general as we do progress. And then also make sure you come back next week to see the top 12 running back rankings and figure out where does Clyde Edwards-Helaire finish, as you might be surprised. This has been Way with Scott Gaming and Sports. Don't forget to put God above all. I'll see you next time.